Welcome to your awakening. Please take care as your reality is adjusted.
Good morning, global digital virtual gulag. I've already been losing my voice today, so I might be a bit croaky. It seems to be everything's going okay. I'm only looking at one tab at the moment, so I will presume that the others are running all right as well, simply because this one is. Let me just check the Rumble. Don't know if Rumble's going or not. It looks like it is, but give it a minute or two, see if it catches up. Welcome back again. Another Moon Day evening episode of Excalibre. With just me tonight. I'm not sure what's going on. I haven't heard anything from Pete. He did schedule the Rumble connection, so I guess he must have done that earlier, or maybe he could have possibly set it up before then. I don't know, but I haven't heard from him, so I don't know what's going on with that. If Rumble's not working, then just tough. I can't do anything about it because I can't access his Rumble account to change anything on there, so I'll just have to presume that it is going. Looks like it is, but it's just cycling through the intro at the moment, so maybe it's not. Maybe it's not got the API link correctly. Of course not, it hasn't, because it needs Pete to come in here and connect it via. Let me see if I can connect it on here. I'm not sure which one it is, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. So there's several different Rumble channels listed in the destinations. I don't want to pick the wrong one and end up sending it to Kitty's channel or something. But we shall see. Maybe he's just running late. Maybe he's got computer problems. Hopefully it's nothing bad. But yeah, we'll just have to carry on as we used to back when I used to sit and preach all on my own with nobody else to have any counterpoint. But I will try and keep an eye on the chat, and you lot in the chat can be the counterpoint this time tonight. So hello everyone in the chat. Let me scroll back up to the top. Hello to James, if he's listening. I hope you're all right, mate. Hopefully you might have had some of this nice weather. It's been really nice the last couple of days. I know you probably haven't got the sun, but you know, anything's better than the usual Scottish weather. So maybe you've had some decent weather. But hello to you. And Blessed Exile, I think, was first in the actual chat box. Good evening, mate. And Roscoe, good evening, Roscoe, from the Canuckistan. Yeah, we don't get as much news as we usually. I still follow Press for Truth through Dan Dix. So I've got somewhat of an eye and an ear on the Canadian situation that he presents. But it's not like we get any of the usual kind of news, very rarely. Usually only when it's to do with Carney, because of him being in the Prime Sinister's position at the moment. Scrolling down, Mascara, good evening, mate. Did you have extra echo on your day on the call today? It seemed like there was more than you had the last time, but maybe that was just my hearing. But still, it sounds good with the echo and reverb on it and everything. So check out the shorts that he's been posting. I've been playing the Akora. And Paula, good evening, Paula Whoosh. I would send you the link if I can. because I know Pete usually sends it to you through the app, so maybe I could do it via email, possibly. I'll try in a bit while I'm yabbering. Rebecca, good evening, Rebecca. Thanks for the news updates. Well, it was funny though, at the end when you finished talking and the cat was like, meow. She waited right by, I'm not sure which cat it was, but they waited right until you finished talking. Genuinely concerned, good evening, right? Yeah, we are the peepers, the peeper troopers, shining brightly. Who's it gonna find me? Rick, good evening, Rick. Hope you're well. I'm sure I saw Frank in there as well somewhere. My scrolling's going all over the place now. Yeah, hello, Frank. The chat box jumps sometimes when it's catching up on the updates from YouTube because I'm looking at the StreamYard chat box. Hello to all the lurkers and time travelers. I don't know why, but I've got a feeling we might not get that many people tuning in tonight. I'm not sure if there's another football match on or something. But whatever it is, maybe people are glued to their set waiting for the latest chunk of information from the authorities about the murder of Anne Widdecombe, because that seems to be the focus of all the UK news media at the moment anyway. Apart from a few bits about the stupid by-election, but that's connected to Farage, which is something I will speculate about. Yeah, the subtitle tonight says, don't speculate, because they've been repeating that on the news coverage. I've heard that phrase so many times over the last couple of days when they've been giving us the updates about the Anne Widdecombe case. And this has become a bit of a stock phrase from the authorities now. Whenever there's some incident like this, and the police spokesperson stands in front of the camera to give a report, they almost always now say, do not speculate, do not go on social media and start speculating about what's going on. Yeah, because that creates misinformation, and you could get yourself or get other people into trouble because you're spreading rumors. Even though the way our news works these days is the news can change within hours. It can certainly change overnight. As in, they'll tell you they think it's this on the one day, and then the next day they'll say, oh no, we've got new information and it's now this. It's not the other thing we were talking about. So in other words, the first thing you said was basically speculation. You had some information and you filled out the story based on that limited amount of information, because they've got to fill airtime. So they're quite happy to have experts, so-called expert talking heads on. Commonly, especially with some of the more recent stuff, they'll have ex-police people on, or ex-crime investigators or something similar. And they will give long-winded speculative ideas about what might be going on, what the police might be doing now, what they might be planning to do over the next coming 24 hours. It's speculation. So they're allowed to speculate, but you're not, which seems to be somewhat of a standard, I was going to say operation, but that's not quite the right word, is it? No, not in that sense, but sort of a standard expectation or a mode of operation that they want the public to adopt. As in, you're supposed to just sit and listen to their speculation because they're the so-called experts, even if they are just journalists speculating on what might happen. But you as a general public are not allowed to speculate because you haven't got a journalism license. You're not part of that special group that the government now want to give extra promotion to on these social media platforms. You're not part of that trusted media group. So you're not allowed to speculate because that means you'll be generating misinformation, which could cause other members of the public to get themselves or others into trouble, or cause violent or hate reactions and all that usual kind of fucking bullshit. It's been getting a bit silly the last couple of days. The don't speculate statement has just been coming out on the regular. So I thought, right, okay, I will speculate. Because there's nothing illegal about speculating. It just takes a little bit of common sense of as long as the people you're talking with get the point, which used to be somewhat of a given, that when you're talking about this kind of event, you are just speculating because you don't have direct access to a lot of the information. You don't have all the little bits of info that the police have been collecting and stuff like that. So, of course, you're speculating. But it's not about the principle of creative debate, as in people discussing based purely on speculation of what might be happening or what might have happened, past tense. That's not what they're worried about. It's nothing to do with you not being an expert or not having a license or anything like that. It's primarily just to do with stopping the spread of information that is not coming from authorized outputs, from those official talking heads that are deliberately outputting the carefully selected narrative that they want you to accept. And yeah, Rebecca's posted in the chat, I got that in my notes about Lindsey Graham and some of the new stuff coming about the Charlie Kirk case. Pete's featured a few bits in his dailies the last couple of days. So in a similar fashion, you're not supposed to be speculating about what happened in those situations, but of course people do. But they want you to just accept the official narrative. The Tyler Robinson hearing has just been a ridiculous kangaroo court process, even though it's a preliminary hearing. It's not the actual case yet. This was just for them to justify that they have a case to present in the first place. But just that alone, the way they presented it is, they expect you to just swallow the narrative that they're outputting. You're not supposed to question it. You're just supposed to listen and nod and accept and take on board what they're telling you, the version of so-called truth that they're presenting to you. And it's very telling that on the last day, when all the live stream cameras were turned off, that was when the prosecution decided to present an edited video, which, according to other journalists who were there, the only thing that was edited about it was some scenes were zoomed in and they'd put graphics on to add arrows pointing at the pixels that were meant to be Tyler Robinson moving across the roof and whatever. So basically just trying to reinforce their created narrative of him being the sole responsible shooter involved in the situation. That's when you look at all the pile of other information and the inconsistencies and such like about the whole event, the official narrative just it doesn't even begin to make any sense. It's just utter bullshit. They're deliberately, again, as I say, they're trying to present a certain narrative, and you're not allowed to question it, even to the point of you're not allowed, or you're not supposed to be discussing it with other people. You're supposed to just nod and accept whatever the tyrant has dictated to you and just get on with your day. No, we are here to speculate. We speculate. We do it every day. It's part of how our minds work. We come up with ideas of what might happen if we follow certain courses of action, or if we say certain things to people. We're already pre-anticipating. That's not exactly a word, is it? We are anticipating what the result of those actions or those words might be. That's speculation. So they're saying you're not allowed to think at all. In a way, yes, that's literally exactly what they're trying to dictate to people. Don't think, just listen and obey. So in other words, be an automaton, be an NPC. be a drone for the system and nothing else. Hello, Spanish. Oi, oi. I hope you're well. I was watching a news report today about homeless people that are not homeless. They were talking about people living in their vans and in caravans and stuff. And for some reason, they seem to have the Sky News, I think. They were featuring people in Bristol, claiming that Bristol was the main city that has the highest number of van dwellers or something along those lines. I don't know whether they meant vans or caravans or what, but yeah, that was a feature. I think I might have mentioned this the other day, that the sorry, I'm just trying to do multiple things at the same time, trying to multitask. It was a storyline that they were brought up probably a couple of weeks ago now when it first started, and it spread across all the different news platforms, all of them talking about people living in their vans, whether it be a caravan or an actual van, a vehicle van. I'll try that one. I think that might be the right address. I'm just thinking I can try and send a link to Paula while I'm doing it. If you want to join in, you're welcome to join in. I think that's the right address I've sent it to. You'll find out in a minute if it turns up or not. And it's okay if you don't want to join in. That's cool. I can carry on doing my usual thing. I thought just in case, because I've got no other way to get the message to you. Yeah, definitely free thinkers are the most dangerous thing to the system at the moment. Even though I think for people who are not, necessarily that, how can I put it without it sounding derogatory? They're not necessarily the sharpest spoon in the drawer, but even, the simplest minds, I think, are starting to realise the immense hypocrisies and inconsistencies in some of the narratives that we're being fed on a daily basis now. From things such as the hot weather being something weird and extreme, whereas it's just summer. It's been fairly nice the past few days, but I'm sure they'll be telling us that some terrible fiery doom is going to be coming again soon anyway. So be prepared for more propaganda on that side. They've already, I think, started pumping a headline I saw earlier claiming that something like more than 2,000 people have died due to the heat. I couldn't be arsed watching it because I thought it's just going to be a tirade of propaganda about the climate change bullshit. I'll catch up on it if it spreads. If it's a narrative that goes across all the platforms or whatever, then I'll check into it a little bit. But I don't want to subject myself to just fucking 10 or 15 minutes of just absolute bullshit about anthropogenic climate change, because that seems to be just a complete concoction of lies that they just keep constantly repeating. And it gets frustrating when the lies have been debunked so many times for multiple years now, for many years. These lies have been overturned and proved to be just falsehoods or false, crappy, fraudulent science and stuff like that. So it's sort of like the very fact that they keep repeating it. It's such an example of the tyrannical control over media that the best way to deal with it is to literally ignore it. Unfortunately, that means if the people tuning in are not open to listening to other information, then of course they're getting heavily brainwashed and propagandized by that bullshit. But I think we've seen that over the past 5-6 years since the COVID debacle. There's been much more of a very distinct separation between people that just don't want to think for themselves and just want to be dictated to. So they will literally swallow any bullshit, even if they were told the sky is green today, they would just accept it and go about their day because some authority figure has told them that that's the new reality they have to accept. You know, it's classic Orwellian mind control kind of fuckery. So when it comes to having to check into news stories like that that are doing the rounds, I can only tolerate so much. You know? Eventually, you have to see those headlines and just think, I can't be asked. Not again. Not the same old shit all over again. You know, so just why even bother giving it any energy whatsoever? You know? Unfortunately, we are at a stage where on pretty much every aspect of reality at the moment, there is just a continuous stream of authorized propaganda. I say authorized in the sense that these are the official narratives that we're expected to accept. You know, so how much of the content is pure lies, how much is vagary or deliberately amorphous or ambiguous language. You know, there's lots of ways that they create this kind of trickery, this feeding of a psychological delusion or illusion. You know, you can spend your entire life doing nothing but picking apart the lies, and trying to do that on an individual level is a path of madness because they don't have just one individual working on this shit. You know, there are thousands of people that are actively creating the lie in the first place, or lies, multiple, plural. And then there are just literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of, I'll call them useful idiots just for ease of explanation, but they're not necessarily participating because they think it's a cause that they have to support. It can be as simplistic as people just, because an authority figure has said it repeatedly in the media or in school when they were going through education, they have just internalized it as being the explanation for reality. So people mention this kind of stuff without even thinking about it. I think I mentioned last week that point about the difference between objective and subjective, you know, the relativity of truth in relation to the transgender question. You know, it is very, very common, if not ubiquitous, for the argument to be presented. Hi, Paula. I'm glad you found the link. I got at least one address correct. And let me just finish what I'm rambling about. Yeah, the transgender question. You'll find it very, very common that one of the arguments that will usually be used to try and justify what's going on with that ideology is that people just want to live their truth. They're just living their truth. Why does it matter to you? That kind of argument, yeah, which is a non-argument in the first place anyway, but it's based on a completely fucked up premise that there is something called their truth or your truth or my truth. You know, there can be truths about my life and my experiences and stuff like that. Yes, but I can't claim that they are my truth as if it's something separate to the rest of reality. That's the difference between objective and subjective. Yeah, a subjective truth about my own life means it's relevant to me and my experiences. It's not the truth. It's not objective truth. It's just an expression of my subjective experiences and opinions and ideas. That's not the truth, yeah? But this is something that a lot of people seem to have been so either poorly educated or purposefully miseducated that they struggle with concepts like that, such that they will just trip over themselves in complete illogical thinking, you know, crappy thinking, basically. And that's just down to the education system not really helping people to learn how to think. It's just teaching them what to repeat, what to think. But that's where we are at the moment. So, hello, Paula, if you can hear me, you got your audio working?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Right, okay. I wasn't going to interrupt what you were saying.
Well, that's what I said, like, give me a minute to just finish what I'm rambling about so I don't lose my thought, That's something else as well that seems to be a common thing now is people, I've noticed it more watching those videos about the transgender situation, but so many people seem to struggle to string together a coherent thought, especially when they're trying to talk about topics or ideas that might have multiple different points of reference or information. They really struggle to link more than one thing together at a time.
Yeah. Just give me a sec. I'm just going to plug my things in. Just so.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, give me a chance to drink some water while we're yakking. Try and keep my voice working for at least a bit longer. I do have some music I can play like we usually do as well. Hopefully I'll pick things this week that are not going to activate the YouTube copyright shit, because they weren't happy about me playing Rock the Casbah last week. To edit that out of last week's episode, because it was just automatically blocked worldwide. It wasn't like with other stuff where it'll say like, you can't monetize your video because you've got this copyrighted content in it. No, whoever owns the copyright for Rock the Casbah, which I think is Sony, so SMG, Sony Music Group.
Mm-hmm.
It's so anal, they just blocked the video worldwide instead. So I had to edit it out instead. Yeah.
You're not allowed to listen to that and enjoy it. No.
No, you're not allowed to share your enjoyment with other people.
No,
even
not
if
unless you pay for it. Pay for it.
Yeah.
Pay for it. Yeah, share your joy if you pay for it. Mm.
Yeah, you have to pay for your joy. You're not allowed to get anything for free. That makes me think.
Do you think maybe? Sorry. Do you think people maybe don't converse, so they don't talk because a lot of them either listen to it on their phones or their tablets or whatever, and leave the conversation for other. We were joking about getting your official news from an official channel, but it's like having conversations from a young age all the way for teenagers. There's people still do, but the conversation isn't so noisy. You don't hear so many chit chattering, whether it's a bus stop or up and down lanes. So the general chat, whether it's pubs, all these are social places that people collected and conversed, and people are quieter. In general, there's not so much noisy chit chat. So that starts, I think, not necessarily small talk. I mean, in-depth conversations. And another thing that I've noticed, people are more likely not to say something that could possibly cause disharmony, or somebody might not their opinion, so they keep their opinions to themselves. Rather, it's just an opinion, just a thought, rather than upset the apple cart or stick their neck out. I think that's another thing. That's why I'm not going to go into about Anne Widdecombe or anything like that, but she stuck to what she had to say, and she took a lot of flack for it, whether you liked her or not. But she was strong-willed, opinionated woman. She stuck by it, like I said, whether you liked it or not. So there aren't many people like her, whether it's a good or bad thing, but she had a voice that she wasn't ashamed to speak whatever. And some people don't like that, do they?
No, this again, I was planning to talk about it, and that's why I called it the Don't Speculate this week, because I will be speculating. I think in the Daily today, Pete included a clip of some I think it was a woman talking about possibilities to do with the situation around the murder of Anne Widdecombe, because it's one of the things that I started to question when the information first came out. I thought it sounds pretty much like an aggravated burglary. That was the way it seemed to be worded from the police report. But as the time obviously ticked over and things started to get stranger, weirder and weirder, as it were, then it led me to start critically thinking about the situation. And always the very first question you should put on the table is cui bono, who benefits? If you think there's a possibility that there could be something untoward about the death, in other words, not natural causes or whatever, yeah? If there could be potentially third parties involved, then the very first question to ask is, well, who would benefit from her death? If she was murdered, who could potentially benefit from it? Obviously, you've got potential heirs of a estate and whatever, if that's even a thing in that respect. I'm not sure how interrelated she was with the rest of the family, but even so, she wasn't exactly super well off. She was doing all right for herself, but she wasn't like a multimillionaire like Farage or something like that, yeah? Which then led me thinking and speculating about, well, isn't it funny how now the entire news media is focused on the death of Anne Widdecombe? And all these questions that were going around about what was Farage getting this money for, and what about the investigation into him, and all that kind of stuff has all just been dropped like a hot potato. Yeah, nobody's talking about that now, are they? Now they're all talking about how Anne Widdecombe was part of the Reform Party, and she stood for that kind of, I suppose you can call it conservative, but there's obviously differences amongst conservative thinkers, but she was certainly on the right of the spectrum, the political spectrum. So, all of a sudden there's all the talk about that, and Farage and what's his face, Tice, they were doing the PR thing, laying a wreath and giving a little speech and all that kind of stuff. And the media was being very contrite and saying, "Oh, isn't it good that they've come out and said nice things about her and whatever?" So, in other words, as I said, like all the pushing for information about Farage has now all of a sudden been dropped. That's convenient, isn't it?
You're being so cynical.
Well, there's another level to that cynicism, which is even worse. It combines the first into a second point, but the first point being, if Farage was getting really fed up with the amount of heat being focused on him, the amount of attention he was getting, he may very well have sat there and thought, right, how can we distract from this attention? How can we redirect this attention? Oh, I know, Anne doesn't have lots of security. She's old. I'm sure people, won't exactly miss her that much if she's taken out. In a very cynical fashion, there may have been that kind of calculation done. Who do we sacrifice to distract from what's currently going on? Add on top of that it perfectly suits the purpose of both parties, of both sides of the aisle, to have an increased threat, a violent threat against politicians, both sitting and retired, because this will enable them to make justification for further security around all politicians. This is something they've been pushing for ever since the death of Joe Cox and David Amos. Yeah, they're two cases that are regularly mentioned whenever this kind of situation comes up. Hello, Pete, in the chat. Join in whenever you want, if you can, right? So, as I say, very cynical, but to me, this is speculation that any critical thought would lead you to, any critical thinking approach to the situation, the event, brings up these questions. Cui bono, who would benefit from her being murdered? Yes, it could have been just some crazy guy who had some kind of personal dislike for her or something like that. Yes, it could have been. But what's the likelihood of that in this modern societal situation? Considering what she represented in many ways to some people, like you just mentioned, not everyone liked her attitude, not everyone liked her political points of view. Yeah, I can remember her for years going through like the 90s and the noughties, and she was always very outspoken. Like you said, an independent thinker, but usually she was quite hard-lined on the conservative or the right side of the spectrum. And for a lot of people, they didn't like that. They found it to be very abrasive.
If the thing that she was brilliant at being able to throw back is if they took a pop at what she looked like rather than what she was saying, she was on par with hitting. She was over the target. If they couldn't argue what she was arguing, as in they were sensible, intelligent arguments, they had to go what she looked like. You know, she had this funny hairstyle. She was like an old head teacher. She was a
when she had the bowl cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she was a spit. That's why I found it very sad when they tried to make her Anne friendly to the public by making her look stupid. That's my opinion. But she joined in willingly and laughed at herself. But that's the way it goes. If you're not, you don't fit, they try to make you fit, don't they?
Well, they demand that you, another phrase that ended up getting turned into that comedy show for what? Oh, he's lost connection.
He's got echo.
No, he's just dropped out there. Maybe he's struggling with a bad connection or something tonight.
There he is.
Yeah, well, sorry then.
I thought maybe you were having bad connection problems.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. That's all right. What was I going to say?
And Whitcomb.
Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm. If you ever watched that, it was an American comedy show. It wasn't that funny, but different kinds of comedy that the Americans like. But the point being, in this respect, is somebody like Anne Widdecombe had an independence of mind, which, as you say, even if you disagreed with what she was trying to argue or the point she was standing on, she would still stand on that point and argue her points. Yeah.
Even if she was alone. Yeah. Even if she was alone, she'd stand alone, literally on a rock, and stand and defend her opinions and where she felt that line was crossed. That's why she was knocked down. She wouldn't waver to public what's it called, opinion and waver
pressure.
Like some of the she wouldn't do that. Yeah, she didn't.
She was a politician, right?
Yeah,
she defended her opinion and.
I'm referring more to the fact that that kind of thinking is not allowed anymore. That's why I said curb your enthusiasm. Yeah. Remember, over the last couple of weeks, I mentioned that thing about the way a lot of the news media are using words that are wholly inappropriate, like furious and scathing row between two different sides or whatever. And you watch it and they're not rowing, they're just arguing their points. So somebody like Anne, who would stand there and argue her point, that level of ability to have a passionate but reasoned debate is not allowed anymore. It's not wanted because that pushes people into emotional extremes.
Yes.
There's a film called Equilibrium starring what's his face, the guy who does Batman, and I can't think of
Batman.
Michael Keane?
No,
after him, the one who did The Dark Knight and whatever.
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Yes,
yeah.
that's it.
Christian Bale.
Yes.
Sorry.
He's in it, and it's a bit of a cheesy science fiction action movie. But one of the main premises that the story is based on is in the technocratic tyrannical future that they're portraying, which is quite similar to a lot of what's being pushed on us at the moment. But the main point in this case is they don't allow anything that elicits strong emotions. So art is not allowed, or is only allowed to a very, very diluted, limited, abstract level, so that it can't, or supposedly it doesn't make people feel strong emotional responses. Other cultural media like literature and music is also banned because it elicits an emotional response. And the idea being is that the problem with humans is they can get overly passionate and then they end up resorting to stupid things like violence or some kind of petty social revenge or whatever, and that's what causes the problems, or that's where the hate begins, that leads to warfare and whatever. But this is what I mean about Anne Widdecombe was somebody who would passionately argue her point. That's not allowed anymore. That's now frowned upon because you are potentially igniting strong emotions in the dumbed down cattle that are tuned into this shit, and they can't predict what the dumbed down cattle will respond to, even though they can, but this is their argument, So you get things like the Southport rioting. That's a really good example of that kind of impassioned response to a situation that people found abhorrent and intolerable. But therefore, the government can turn around and go, oh, you see, these people talking about this kind of stuff have riled up the crowd into an uncontrollable emotional response. That's eliciting hate. We can't allow that. So somebody like Anne made a good example of somebody who can use their critical thinking abilities and have a rational and reasoned debate, but in a very passionate and determined fashion. That doesn't work for the current tyrannical control system.
If you watched her in a debate, she was intelligent, articulate, quick-witted, and she had a sense of humour. And that is, she could laugh at things and when she was wrong, she admitted when she was wrong.
And
that's rare.
I mean, the amount of times over the years I've watched her do a political thing, and sometimes I thought, like, she does have some stupid ideas.
She does.
Yeah, she did. I should past tense. She did have some stupid ideas sometimes, but she was trying to argue for a certain sort of political viewpoint more than anything. So when it got down to the nitty gritty, the details, as it were, then sometimes her ideas started to fall apart a bit, because it's sort of like, how can you implement that, love? What you're suggesting may sound good on the surface, but you're never going to be able to implement it,
Yeah.
And I think she was able to, like you say, have a rational debate about stuff like that. And I think that's the main point here.
Problem?
Yeah.
Reaction.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's a problem, right? When you question stuff. So, and she did start questioning stuff. So
maybe she was questioning too deeply. Maybe you're speculating about Farage. Who knows?
Well, she was supposed to be talking in an interview, 2 interviews on that day when she died, allegedly died. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think she'd done one in the morning, and then she was booked in to do another one in the afternoon. Yeah. And the police reckon she was murdered in between the two. So
I think he was very aware of what Starman was doing and what Farage is doing and what the agenda they are pushing.
Yeah.
I think she was very aware of that and became critical, and that became the issue.
Potentially,
so it's weird, right? It's a 20-year-old and it's a 27-year-old and a 27-year-old, and then it's a 25-year-old. They killed her, and they don't seem to find the killer. Like, I have three now. 3.
Yeah.
Number 3.
No,
right?
it's 2, but the second one has been rearrested under the terrorism charges, so they can hold him longer.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's the same one that was the second one arrested. But they, instead of just doing the murder charges or whatever the initial charges were, but now they've stepped up to terrorism charges. That gives them a bit more ability
it's
to...
dodgy, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
So...
This is what I say, like, once this kind of weirdness started to happen, that's when it got me thinking, like, okay, well, who would benefit from this? What potentially
why now? Why now? Yes.
You said about the why now? The village where she lives in Dartmoor. I mean, I'm not far away from it, and
lovely over there. Lovely.
It's beautiful, and it is crime-free 99.9% of the time. And it is you have the old ladies in the village, retired, the WI, the backbone of these little places where they've been shaken to the core, and then the other side where they think it's the political, it could be, as you said, just a burglary gone wrong or something like that. But the speculation is getting bigger because you say, why now? At any time, she could have been burgled. It's very convenient or inconvenient that it is now, because exactly the same thing would have been last week, last month. And if you think at the height of the summer, long summer days, if you're going to do it, it'd be in the middle of the night, when you can go in a catsuit. It's very odd. The village is well protected by its own, the gardeners and cleaners and delivery. So it's very like, how did they get in under the radar and nobody see nothing? Yeah. In a village that small, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That as well makes me think, like, how is it that, let's take the official narrative as is at the moment, that it was just an individual person acting alone. They had some kind of really malicious hatred towards her, such that they would drive nearly 300 miles just to go and beat her to death with a stick. Yeah, that's what they're suggesting, right? So how is it that this crazy person just happened to fixate upon somebody that conveniently didn't have personal security in the same way as a lot of the others do, like Farage, and also lived in a situation where they could easily drive into a driveway and be pretty much unnoticed by anyone in the middle of the day, such that they could walk in, kill her, and then get back in their car
They
and leave.
just did a report on her house, on her where she lived, on the BBC, I think. Right? So it was easy to find her where she was and all that.
And again, the fact that she had no security really of any serious kind. They haven't said if she had cameras on her home or anything like that.
No. To me, she feels like Farage, but the female version of Farage.
Yeah.
Right? So she's like
similar.
an example to him. Like, okay, dude.
Hello,
I don't know,
some in the chat. Hello, mate.
Because he did that by-election thing. He forced the by-election thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a stupid thing to do, but that's my opinion. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, he seems quite desperate
to
get
but
the attention off himself.
Yeah. So
I don't think he's necessarily a nice guy in any way whatsoever.
No,
yeah?
I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. No.
But I am just speculating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we're not supposed to do at the moment. Yeah. But, that's
I had that bit on the Daily,
start.
right, where he came out with his little flowers and
and made a little speech. Yeah.
That's sickening. I really find that kind of stuff sickening.
It is a bit weird. Yes.
It is a little, but then again, she was part of the Reform Party. So they've got a sort of excuse for it in a way, but it is a little bit PR exploitative.
Yeah.
Very manipulative.
It's slimy.
Yeah, it is slimy.
Yeah. He could have waited until later. He could have waited until it was more of a kind of police presentation for the public, when they give their report of what's going on and whatever. He could have done something then. But he chose to turn up at her home, go onto the driveway, lay a wreath and make a little speech.
You're not suggesting that was another PR stunt. Oh, Cookie, you're so cynical tonight. So cynical tonight.
100% PR. Don't be fooled.
This is the state we're in now, I think.
I know.
There's no sympathy in that at all. No.
And for a lot of the public, I think they have got to the point where they are so worn out. They've had, and again, talking about that kind of curb your enthusiasm and no strong emotions allowed aspect. I think people have got to the stage where their outrage has been completely consumed. It's been used up. Yes, exactly. Society of the spectacle, exactly. Yeah. But I think the public is just sort of like, oh, politician's been killed. Oh, well, yeah, she was all right. She said some stuff I liked over the years, but never mind. Yeah, and it's like, hang on a minute, we're now having people killed for their opinions.
Yeah.
We're also having physical fighting take place in the streets because of people's opinions. So if you question the trans ideology, you get some crazy green-haired freak attacking you with scissors. Yeah, that's the kind of shit that has now become, the public is just sort of like, oh, well, that's the state of play at the moment. If you say something that's a bit offensive, somebody's probably going to try and stab you. Yeah.
Why of all people, and why of all people, and Withercombe would be the one?
Because
she's pretty harmless, isn't she?
Right? Yes, but I think because of her situation, mate, that made her an easy, vulnerable target.
There you go, right?
An old woman that wouldn't be able to defend
that should tell you something
well,
about you on what kind of a target we are. Like,
Yes, exactly. And again, this official narrative that it was just some crazy guy who drove all the way down there because he had some kind of angst against her personally. That again is fueling that solo lone wolf crazy person.
Have they got him? I'm still not sure because it's 28 or 28 years old, and now it's a 25-year-old they got.
They haven't
so
said
I don't
for
know.
definite yet, mate.
I don't
it's
know.
just the fact that they've changed to the terrorism charges so they can hold them longer. Plus, they could make an argument that he is extremist or he's somehow
Tommy Robinson aligned.
Motivate, which means it could affect how they get railroaded through the judicial system then. Similar to what they're doing with that Tyler Robinson over the Charlie Kirk case, It is very similar,
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
I think we have, unfortunately, for a lot of people, I mean, again, we were talking about earlier, Anne had some strong ideas and strong opinions on certain stuff, but we used to have a society where that wasn't a problem. You could have people having a debate in the pub over a few points who had radically different political points of view. They'd have an argument backwards and forwards, and then they'd buy each other a point. Yeah, you could have somebody who was a radical conservative arguing with somebody who's a radical leftist, and they'd be stood in the same pub having a drink with each other. It didn't used to be a problem until the government turned it into a problem. Now you're not allowed to have strong opposing opinions, but they're forcing you to pick a side anyway.
Well, the influencer told me he saw a 4K video of Tyler Robinson getting shot, all that shit, right? Yeah.
I never trusted that content in the first place, man. I never liked him.
No.
I saw him pop up quite often on the YouTube.
Benny, whatever. Yeah.
Johnson, I think he's in it. Benny, I think.
Yeah.
But they all just refer to him as Benny, don't they? Yeah, he's like fucking Sheckelstein.
Again, how many times are they going to do this? Right? Because it gets a bit tedious at this point.
But like I said, I think that's a lot of the public's attitude, mate, is they're worn out from it. But that is more dangerous. Yeah, that is more dangerous because that means people stop complaining. They stop saying no. They stop voicing their distress at how this situation has been.
I don't care.
That means that now political assassination has become kind of like standard practice, which is another indicator that you're in a tyranny. When political assassinations become a standard tool of politics, you're living under a tyranny.
Yep.
It's just as simple as that. So, we haven't quite got Andy Burnham on the throne yet, but he's going to be there within the next week, I think. So the current state of the political play here in the UK has reached a head, definitely. Yeah, it's certainly reached.
Farage is shooting himself in the foot all the time. So I don't see him. He wants to be
I've always argued, mate, that that's his purpose. He's never meant to become a leader. He's never meant to actually run a successful party. His job is purely as a disruption agent.
Yeah.
He causes the parties to split apart and create little factions and groups that fight against each other all the time.
Yeah.
That's what he did before with UKIP. He's doing exactly the same now with the reform.
Yeah.
There's what's his face? Habib, the one who's doing the Restore Party, and then of course you got others like David Curtin. What they call it? Is it the Heritage Party? I think something like that. Okay. So you've got a lot of these little groups sort of splintering off, and reform is just acted like a whirlwind, causing a lot of this fragmentation on purpose.
Yeah, I think the Lord Binhead, or whatever the fuck his name is, Binface, has more votes right now than Farage. Honestly,
I want him to win
because he seems to be more stable than fucking Farage, right? So.
I think a lot of the public are the same respect of the public are so sick and tired of the shit that they would willingly vote for a joke, knowing full well that the guy's not meant to be a serious politician, but they don't care because this is the level of comedy that they think.
Because Binhead has been around for fucking decade now, and he's gonna make it one day for sure if he keeps up.
Hello, really?
Yep.
Okay.
You're looking.
Play a bit of music. I grabbed this one for a double reason. One, was it Django that you had in your daily the other day? In the black and white bit where he sat in the kitchen playing the guitar with the woman sat next to him. I'm sure that's Django Reinhardt. Right?
Could be. Yeah.
Classic, absolute classic jazz guitarist from the 30s and 40s. If you've never heard him, if you're into guitar playing, check him out. His name's Django Reinhardt. And he's one of the all-time classics. He's an influence on so many modern guitarists these days. Yeah, I think it was him. But that made me remember some of this other stuff. So I thought I'll grab this one. Some people might recognise who this is straight away as soon as the video starts. But we'll say a big shout out for him. He's up there with the rest of them. Now they've got a guitarist, a drummer, well, two guitarists, because Krishna used to play guitar as well, didn't he? And I suppose Jason could play the tambourine. But they've got themselves quite a nice little musical group up there in heaven now. But yeah, we're still here. So we're still listening to the craziness and trying to still find some joy in between when we're allowed to, of course, when you're actually allowed to have your actual joy and actually enjoy it. Anyway, I'll shut up and play this while I draw my curtains and get my breath back. Back in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, click the button. There we go. R.I.P. Jeff C. If you didn't know, that was Jeff C. from his guitar channel, where he used to do just his music stuff. But he had something a bit separate from all the conspiracy stuff. So, you know, for the time when he took a break from it, like he should do, yeah, don't fixate totally on just this stuff, because it will drive you crazy. You have to take some time out and do other stuff. And he was a brilliant guitarist. He had a separate channel. It's called Black Dog Brunsey. That's a cover from someone called Big Bill Brunsey, I think. And it's just a guitar shuffle. You know, there's no lyrics. It's just a bit of instrumental rag and blues kind of style. Yeah, there's a few songs on his channel, as well as obviously the one I play every so often, the Some Sunny Day Soon one, where he's floating around in his canoe. Yeah, so as I say, big shout out for Mr. Smith as well recently. So we've sent a few musicians upstairs. Hopefully they're sending some energy back down to us. I think maybe they are. I'm not sure how else to explain the awakening. Maybe it's that kind of standing wave effect.
Well, musicians don't tend to get older than 27 years old.
No, that's deliberate.
Yeah, well.
I mean, Django lived to a ripe old age.
Oh yeah.
There's plenty of old music. I mean, fuck it, Rolling Stones.
Smitty was older than that, but yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, sometimes the best musicians do seem to get taken away far too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes it seems that great ability has a cost, as in a shorter lifespan. Yeah, there's other examples of that, like some of the great scientists. Like I was listening to Neil Oliver talk about Maxwell, the physicist. You know, so somebody I knew about in the first place. I thought it was interesting that he was talking about him, but it's sort of like, yeah, he was. Oh, she's lost connection again. He was probably certainly in the top 5 of the most influential scientists of the last few hundred years. Trying to remember his full name. Was it Robert Maxwell? He's back again. Yeah. You got a really shitty connection tonight. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Shit over here. Yeah. Sorry about that.
They're just fucking with the cables. Is it the Russians fucking with the cables across the channel?
Yeah, I hope so. That would be easy.
Yeah, that would be an easy.
I'll blame them.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll blame sunspots. That's always a good one. Right, let me check my notes. The counter-terrorism team have taken over the Ann Widdecombe investigation now. Mentioned speculations about the other possible motives. Maybe, like I said, speculation. The other main point, I think, really is just simply about the purpose it serves for the current political system. It doesn't matter if it's left or right of the aisle, whether it's Conservative or Labour that gets into power, or even Liberal Democrats or whatever. It doesn't matter which fucking party gets in at the moment. You end up with the same uni-party effect. And for that uni-party control system that he's rapidly revealing itself as pure tyranny, the justification that the murder of yet another politician, even though she was retired, she was still part of the discussion. She was still being interviewed by mainstream media, news, legacy news platforms. So, you know, she was obviously still given a lot of respect for her opinions and her knowledge and her political discussions and whatever. So her being killed like this gives them even more justification to create a separation between the public and the political control system. So, you know, they can introduce more measures in between you and them, or claim more justification to need to keep you at arm's length in various manners. Yeah, it would certainly justify the digitization of your interacting with your local politician, for example. So in other words, you can no longer go to what they call a surgery, where you go to the politician's office, you know, and they will literally take visitors from the public and have discussions with them and stuff like that. That's how representatives are meant to work, yeah? You're meant to have the ability to go to your representative and say, hey, I'm not happy about this. I think you should be doing that. I think you should be voting for this thing. Yeah? You used to be able to do that, but that's getting harder. And with this new digitized system that they're trying to introduce, then they could easily claim reasoning and justification to say, right, okay, from now on, you can only have virtual surgeries. So you will have to use an online app to go and talk to a politician via a screen, not actually visiting them in person. Yeah, this argument has been made ever since that so-called crazy guy killed David Amos, because that was in his office during surgery times. Combined with that, their push towards removal of jury trials and other digitization agendas, such as the digital ID, etc. It all slots together very neatly, you know, to separate the control system from the mass of the population, so that you can no longer have direct access. Yes, certainly, go on.
What you were saying about the surgery, when you doctors, right? Doctors are being put virtually online, but I had to years ago make an appointment locally to see an MP because of a matter I needed a little bit more whoosh. If you face somebody face to face, it's much more difficult to, let's say, squirm out of it. If you have direct facts and you can lay your facts in front of somebody that's supposed to be representing you in Parliament, you can look, this is my situation. What can you do? It might have been a personal one. It could have been a community one. I'm only talking locally from what I remember over the years, whether it's David Ben Halligan, Mud, you name all the people in the area that I'm in. If you went and seen them, they were accountable to the people that put them in the seat of power in that per se. Even if you vote, this is how I'm saying, if you vote whatever party you voted for, you could still go and see your local MP and he would represent you no matter what your political leanings were. By taking that out and the accountability of meeting somebody across a room, you never got to see that person on your own. It was an appointment and there was other people there. But they're removing the accountability from, you got your MPs, and then it goes further and further. Your council officials, your doctors, your policemen, virtual schools. So that is dissolving and diluting the power, let's say the power of the people, and then the person that has been put in that position. There is no accountability. So you don't know who you're talking to on a virtual screen, or, it's different when you meet that person.
Could even be AI.
Yeah, when you meet that person across a desk and you lay your paperwork out, they then have to take it away. Yes, they have a secretary who'll deal with it. Might take a few weeks, but you saw them in person. They listened to what you said, whether it was a 10 or 15-minute appointment. And then 90% of the time, 99% of the time, people had at least answers. They would have gotten back into it. Might have taken the person might have said, I don't know about this, I'll find out. They would then use secretaries to find out, and they would then try to answer a question or maybe remove a blockage or sort something out. It could be anything to do with housing, it could be water, it could be schooling, it could have been a personal issue. But they would then try, because that's what their job, that's what they were there for, to raise your issue as local people further up into London, so that's now gone. You're just saying that's now gone. They're going to remove that, and it will be, I don't know, emails or virtual whatever. So that's another step we're moving.
And I do think that it's not going to be very long, because we're already tipped over the edge. We've gone past the Rubicon already in terms of the AI. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's lost connection again. Fucking hell.
Pedal faster, pedal faster.
But I think they've already crossed the stage of being able to utilize AI in a way that would fool most people. You know, so it's not going to be very long. You're talking probably by the end of this year. The quality of AI impersonating real people. You could have an AI interaction for your virtual surgery with your so-called representative. And at some point, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. Whereas, like you said, when you go and see them personally, you're in their physical space. You can read body language. You can read facial expressions more clearly than you can on a screen. Yeah. So you would get a sense of, are they actually listening to me? Are they giving me some bullshit? Are they trying to fob me off? Are they lying to me? You can sense that. You can read that. Yeah. Because communication is more than just verbal words. Yeah. Whereas once it's on a screen, once it's virtualized, you're going to lose a lot of that communication. And then eventually they can replace that person with an AI creation, and the AI will be able to control the facial expressions to such a degree that you would not be able to tell when they're lying. If anything, it would be completely the opposite, because the AI would be able to fake the sense of genuine communication from this AI crafted video. Yeah. This is something that I think a lot of the general public are not really thinking about. It's not that they're unaware of it, but I think their attention has been so focused on the kind of Hollywoodism of the ability in a video sense of what AI can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are thinking about the latest movies that use AI to do some kind of special effect in the movie or whatever, and how you can't tell anymore and blah, blah, blah. They're not considering the fact that, well, if they can do it on a movie screen, why can't they do it on your phone screen when you think you're interacting with a real person that works for the authority in some respect? Even when it's a private third-party company, like an energy company. You get in touch saying, hey, what's going on with my energy supply? And you get some fucking AI artificial chatbot that you have to interact with. Yeah.
It's come to this. You got your AI, which is past my imagination. I've seen a few on the dailies where you could have, like, you sat there, and with AI you could look just like me and sound like me, and vice versa. It's very odd how that's done. So it could be any politician, anybody that you think is in a position of responsibility. You're offsetting some trust to that. Whereas I was trying to explain, meeting somebody in person, face to face, it's completely different. See, we've already offset so much of trust in banking, and people give all kinds of stuff out. Even your medical stuff. Your doctors and stuff. It's none of that. I don't think so. From my experience now, it's so much on the computer base and screens, and and that there is no accountability. If somebody fucked up years ago, there was somebody accountable. That was that job at the end of the line. That's my job. That's to make sure that happened. Because it's virtually done, whether it's a virtual AI. This person took this call at the local police station. You can't even go to a police station. You have to have an appointment, or it's one step removed. How can I put it? Like, you've got your reality, then there's this like grey space, and then you go over that grey space, and there's that myriad of confusion and of information. What is real? Am I speaking to a real person? Is that person a representative, or am I talking to a robot? It's very difficult to understand now. I find it difficult. And
hello, Steve, in the chat. Mate. I was going to say, like, if you phone like a lot of the services now, like the energy companies and whatever, a lot of the time you have to interact with an AI chatbot first. So how it used to be where you get like a recorded message saying, press 1 for reception, press 2. Now it's basically the same kind of thing, in the sense of it's an automated system to filter your call, but it's presented as if it's a real person. It's an AI pretending to be a real person. And again, I'll repeat the fact that at the moment it's somewhat uncanny, as in the uncanny valley effect that, research that if you've never heard of it. But it's going to very rapidly get to a stage where, unless you're quite specialized in the subject matter, you will not be able to tell that you're talking to an automated system. And that automated system will be able to adjust its responses to you personally. It will be able to access information about you personally, your personality profile, not just about your account with the company, but the data that they buy from other data scrapers. So basically, they have literally a personality profile for you that they can access. They can go, oh, yeah, she doesn't like these kind of subjects. She likes it when you say these kind of words to her, and all this kind of personal data storage. They're going to have access to that. So this AI will be able to tailor its responses to you personally. Think about, like, when, say, for example, I know this is classic if you've got kids, where there'll be one of the kids who learns really well how to manipulate you to get what they want.
Yes.
Some children are better at it than others. Yeah.
Yes,
Some children are not very good liars, and they're a bit too honest for their own good, and they give themselves away and whatever. But some children can be real deceptive little fuckers, you know, and they know how to twist you to get you to do what they want. Imagine that times 100. That will be the AI system. The AI will access a personality profile about you and go, right, okay, to get her to agree, I need to take this psychological approach. Boom, 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 boom. You say yes. People are not really considering the possibilities of what this is very, very rapidly heading towards. This is not a matter of you phone up and the voice goes, hello, this is automated system. Please tell me what you want. It's not the fucking Daleks, yeah? This is an insidious program that has learned how to manipulate you in exactly the same way as the producers of smartphone technology very rapidly learned how to hook you in chemically and then deliberately design their systems to make you addicted. The AI will take a similar approach. It will have access to information about how to psychologically manipulate you, and it will implement it because that will be a way for the businesses to claw more money off you.
Can I just say, when you're talking about that, I was just listening to you saying, I remember the days, you know, when you got the AI that maybe this is the way it's done, maybe it is filtering human behavior so they can stop the moment where, and I'm sure you have, because I have over the, I'm probably at least 10 years ago, maybe longer, but 10 years ago, where if you were use the word rage or incandescent with fury or whatever, you really wanted to get somebody on the end of the phone, you had to remember that person taking that call. You had to try and remember to take it cool, calm and collected. But there were times where you were told if you swore or you were abusive to a member of staff, they wouldn't take your call. I accept that because I used to take calls. You don't want someone going, rah! But that passion, that's a skill. If you were somebody on the end of the phone, being able to sort that problem out, work out why that person is really angry or frustrated, and are you able to help them? There is none of that. So that going, you know, that when you meet yourself in the circle, you press button A, right, we'll go through to, you know, to that department, but you're not going through departments. You're being filtered through like a system. So you can't get angry with a robot. You can only put the phone down and think, whoa, or the computer or whatever it is, because that's the system. It's got to where people aren't bothering to a certain point unless, this is what I can see what you're saying, unless the system agrees with them, and then they can move to the next step, almost like a platform game. You know, I used to play, I got to the next platform, I jumped through that many hoops, I poked that balloon, I got rid of that monster, and now on the next level, maybe now I'll get through to someone in the gas or the electric or the council or DVLC. DVLC is always a laugh, but you speak to her, you know what I mean? I don't know anyone spoke to anyone at DVLC or Passport, you know, it's like, no, there isn't human beings there. Yeah, there's nobody there, actually, they're robots. But that's we're laughing about it, but that's happened so exponentially over the years that majority of younger people accept that as normal.
Yeah,
you know, they just have,
it's normal everyday life now.
Yeah. Whereas there was no, you can't even go to, we used to have town clerk offices, none of that. So county council was select, but even county council offices are closed off unless you have an appointment. Can't go into the county hall buildings. Only the reception now,
Not
but you won't
anymore.
see anyone. No, not unless, you've got an appointment because it's behind closed doors and you don't have access to it. No, sorry. No, you don't have the right face or the right whatever. So yeah, it's closed off. You wouldn't have had, that wasn't acceptable in 20 years ago. That was not acceptable. We wouldn't, you would have people down here, you'd have them turn up in mass because, people, and that was before Facebook in a bit, we're not getting anywhere. Well, there'll be a whole load of us go down and we'll make a ruckus depending what it was, locally. Can't do that now. Can't be seen. The people won't see you. I say the people, but the people at the other side of the gate, you understand what I mean?
Yeah, and it's an expression of strong emotion again, which you're not allowed to have.
No.
Hello, Nick Sud in the chat. But like you mentioned earlier, if you raise your voice with somebody on the phone, they can instantly say, "Oh, it's our policy to not deal with people who are overly emotional," and they'll just hang up on you.
Yeah.
Or you could end up getting reported or something, depending on who you're trying to talk to, what like department you're trying to get into or whatever. But in a similar fashion, that kind of when we were on the holiday and when I had that altercation with the guy about the sunbeds, that was a good example of that kind of thing. Because I got a little bit passionate, and then when the other guys joined in as well, Rob and Kitty and Rich joined in the debate, they were getting a bit passionate as well. And you could see the look on this guy's face, and he was like, "Oh, you're going to escalate it then? That's offensive language, that is, sir." And that has now become a get-out clause for the system. Yeah, which is a completely bogus excuse for them to say, "Oh, somebody raised their voice, therefore end of conversation. You no longer allowed access. You can no longer get your problem redressed or whatever because you got frustrated and raised your voice like by 1 decibel." Yeah, that was it. Somebody went, "Oh, I'm worried now that you're raising your voice. End of conversation. You can no longer have access." That is just a simple way for the system to basically shut you out. And the other thing I wanted to add is what I'm hoping, and I'll be a bit cynical and pessimistic in this respect, is that I don't think this will pan out in the long run, but I'm hopeful that it may exist in the grey market kind of environment. But hopefully what will start to happen is some of the AI producers out there, not necessarily the big ones that are like getting all the headlines or whatever, because there's lots of smaller companies that are using AI for doing other stuff, and you can get like decent deals off them and whatever, and AI can be a very useful tool for a lot of people, so there's some people out there that are making good use of this kind of technology. But what I'm hoping is there will be more third-party sort of grey market production of what would be called AI agents. And those agents will be able to be tasked to deal with the kind of problem that we've just been describing. So, for example, you want to change your energy contract with your energy provider. You personally, if you tried to do it personally, you'd go through this circular loop of arguing with an automated system that won't give you access, basically, to get what you're looking for. But if you task an AI agent and you say, "Deal with this problem for me," they will approach that problem 24/7 using digital systems. So you won't have to sit there on the phone constantly going through phone bullshit trying to deal with an AI chatbot, because this agent will just do it digitally for you via the internet. Yeah, in a way, you can think of it as like a weapon to deal with their weapon. It is an arms race that's somewhat taking place at the moment. It's just that all weapons are being produced by their system. So for us as end consumers, we're having to rely on what normally is referred to as white hats, people in the AI or in the software industry that are genuinely trying to create stuff that helps people and not exploits them. So as long as the white hats are able to keep up the weapon development, as it were, as soon as the system creates more powerful AI, these people will create AI counters to it, that kind of thing. It is an arms race, basically. And at the moment, we do still have some people creating those kind of arms or weapon systems that are on our side. So I'm still hopeful, but I'm somewhat pessimistic about it because I can see this very rapidly being curtailed in the same way as the internet has been. It's taken them 2 decades to do it with the internet, but I think they deliberately went slowly with the internet to make sure that the whole of society was transitioned onto it first.
I think
Because
it's
our
going to,
societies are now reliant on the internet as a technology. Yeah.
and
Hello.
the
Let me just say hello in the chat to Hayes Reviews. Hello, mate. Thanks for doing your book reviews. Fucking excellent stuff. I'm glad more people are getting the hard copy idea and working with it. We definitely need more hard copy. So yeah, go on.
when smiling, thinking about how, not smiling, it's kind of scary smiling, how fast it's going, as in leaving your, how can I put it, I was saying the trust again with the AI. I was smiling a minute ago, thinking about the old utility companies. Conversation years ago where whether it was diddling, there's always been a little bit of diddling, but it was sticking, the old fashioned coins in a meter, or maybe people twiddled it so they could put a magnet on it, or they wind the clock back. It was small, yeah, right. But now, when it's say I'm just seeing stuff that's happening. So when you got plugged into your mains, you would have a meter and someone come round and fit it. Now you don't know who's reading it, if it's your meter, if it's right, and there is down here now, because we've got so many new builds. Some of these new builds could be running on water, gas, mainly electric, and all the other bills, but they might not get anything for 6 months. Now you cannot tell me that they don't know from the minute. Whereas years ago, the minute you moved into a house, within, I don't know, 2 weeks, you'd have your gas all updated, gas, electric, telephone, within, and then you'd have it. Now it's like you press this button and you hope that they press the right button to, there is no, as I said, you've given that trust, offset your trust, so you don't actually have a hard copy, or you're not physically there. You just hope that when they press a button, you're on your gas, your electricity, your Wi-Fi, your water, and everything else, and it's invisible. There is no these threads that run out, and we're talking about it, say this year, and you say by the end of the year this is going to happen. Within 12 months, when we discuss this in 12 months time, we're going to be following in the slipstream, thinking that's happened so fast, so quickly, and it's because so many people have already engaged with it, or they're working with it in the smallest sense. People like you and I that will still queue up to pay cash, will queue up to pay cash. There'll be people that go, no, I'll just wave me phone or wave me whatever it is, and then you assume it's gone to the right bill, or everything isn't. It's so hidden with AI and with the electronic everything from literally your well-being, your mental health, your physical health, everything in your home um, is invisible. There's nothing. So when it comes back to recall, if you have something in your hand, you go, I remember that. So you can recall it. You have that, and you can say this is where you went wrong. There's nothing. You can't even argue with the computer. You can't argue with AI, because once you get to the end of the line, there's nobody that will take the call or pick it up, because you've reached the end of the line. Might have got to those platform games, right? That's it. And you might not still have a satisfactory answer that is a conclusive one that you feel, yeah, I'm okay, I can sort that. No, that's why I said it's getting so fast. Even people that are really switched on to it, like me, they find it a struggle to keep up with it. And you're switched on. You're really switched on, and really I know you, like me, like don't like to engage too much with the technology, but you're very aware of it. You know far more about what's coming, and you can see how many younger or older people are engaging with it because they see it as convenient, a good thing, possibly cost effective. They're going to save some money, whatever, not realizing that every time they give an inch, they're losing miles of what they've taken all their life to gain, which is independence and having a voice. Because once you join the majority, your voice is lost, isn't it? You're not heard.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to rapidly get to the stage where trying to interact with your, let's just say, service providers, but this is going to affect every aspect of life, not just your energy provider or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's going to get to the stage where for you as an everyday human being, you're going to find it pretty impossible to break your contract with those providers. And this ties into, again, I know it's sort of beating the same point again, but this technocratic transition driven by groups like the WEF, the idea of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Part of their supposition with that concept is that you won't own anything anymore because instead you will rent it in some fashion. You will pay some kind of subscription service for the thing that you want, whether it be a physical item or a service that they provide to you. Yeah. So again, when it gets to that stage, it's in the interest of these companies to employ AI systems to make sure that they keep you connected to them and keep your subscription fee. It's like you're feeding them, which is literally you are basically within the system. So they don't want you to stop feeding them. So they're going to use every trick they can come up with, using AI in particular, to keep you hooked into them. Which is why I say I think we are at the moment subject to, like I like the expression you use of we've been drawn in the wake of this stuff, which is very true. We've been dragged along by decisions and actions taken by other people, and we're just getting pulled along in the aftermath. But they are going through an arms race, which is somewhat of just a game that's being played out, because I know I've used this word a lot recently. Inevitably, we're going to the same place. So they're doing the same usual trick they do to us, where they give us a false choice, an illusion of a false choice. Yeah. So it's like, oh, well, if you don't want to use AI, you don't have to use AI. But we're changing society to just such a degree that if you don't make some kind of use of AI, you're going to get so fucked over by what we do with the system that you're going to end up going, oh, well, I'm going to have to use AI to try and deal with this problem, or deal with this situation. So they're dragging us into it, whether we like it or not. And even if, like you said, I'm fairly aware of technology. I've been since I was a kid. I got into the idea of science and technology from a very early age, reading things like H.G. Wells, The World of Tomorrow and stuff like that, and all the various TV programs I used to watch that were based on science and technology principles. The idea that the future is going to be fantastic because of our amazing scientific developments and technological advances, etc., etc. But over the years, because I kept that interest up, over the years, I started to see more and more of what I thought was the common sense and reasoned, rational discussion about how a lot of these technologies are certainly double-edged swords, at least, if not outright dangerous. So how you use them and how you implement them is certainly just as important as how amazing they are in the sense of an innovation. Just because it's an amazing innovation doesn't mean you should necessarily employ it in society, because it might fuck society up completely. A bit like smartphone technology. I watched an interview with an author, professor. Let me just check what his name is. It was on Channel 4, one of their sort of news podcast things. A guy called Jonathan Haidt. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. Haidt, author of a book called The Anxious Generation. He's mainly a sociologist, and he was looking at how for the younger generations, they've been turned into what he refers to as the anxious generation. I've been talking about this kind of thing with like the millennials and the Gen Z being socially awkward and socially anxious. And this is something that I feel has been entrained into them because of the way society has been educating or miseducating the younger generation since the advent of the internet. So for us, for our generation, because we're analog generation, we're somewhat immune to it. But these newer generations have been born into it, so they don't know any different. And it's led to this situation of we've now got at least 3 generations that are socially awkward in so many different ways. But the point I was going to make about this interview, this guy, this Jonathan Haidt, the argument he's trying to make, he's trying to argue in favour of the banning the under 16s from social media. And all it does is justify the state control over society. So classically, he's using a statist argument that rather than helping people learn how and why social media can be dangerous and bad for them, in other words, learning how eating too much of a strong food could be bad for you, overindulgence can lead to health problems and that kind of thing. In the same way, overindulging on what could be referred to as psychological junk food, social media, psychological junk food, is bad for your thinking. It's bad for your well-being, your mental well-being. Instead of helping people learn that so they can moderate their consumption and therefore not be subjected to the problems of it, instead he wants the state to come in and control the use of it. A statist solution to a problem that could easily be addressed in other ways, I would argue. So go on, what was you wanting to...
Years ago, if you were stopped in the street, and so you always had them, somebody with a what do I call it, like a clipboard and a piece of Can I stop you? I'm doing a survey. I'm just saying, a survey on the street. The majority of people, if you were busy, wouldn't want to be asked personal questions. It wouldn't matter if it was religion, political views, could have been local about playing field. If you had time, you might have possibly given some answers. You didn't give your name, address. You didn't necessarily want to sign it. Now, in your phone or your palm, you've got all these little. This is why I say the younger generation gives so much up, because it might be a quiz, or it might be, how do you feel about this? And then it's a tick box. It might be so innocent.
It's called gamification.
It might be so innocent, like, oh, what's your views on this? On your phone, click, 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 and you're giving so much personal information. You wouldn't do it on the street. You wouldn't feel that information, but because it's in your hand, possibly not being inconvenienced, you might be having a cup of coffee. You've got this little thing, and they willingly give this information as well. So if you were stopped in the street, face to face with someone you'd never met, and they're asking these questions, most people still now wouldn't want to give their time up. It was give up the time or that information. So that's how it's changed, so that you willingly. I don't, but I still am shocked how much personal information people put on social media. I still find it like, why would you share that? You don't want everyone to know that.
I can give a simple explanation to that, which you know what I'm like. I think it's
go on.
It's certainly the primary answer for that effect. But first, let me just say a quick hello, Sue in the chat, and Paul, hello, and Lance Ripper, hello.
Gary's in.
Jerry.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, Jerry. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Sue.
This again is key to the advent of the internet, or the widespread adoption of the internet into society. But it's that dopamine feedback loop, which is part of why I think they gave us this technology, because they knew it would enable situations like that. Those younger generations in particular, certainly the Gen Z and now the Gen Alpha even more so, because so many people are giving their infant children smart devices just to shut them up. And they are literally turning them into digital addicts. The same. You might as well inject fucking heroin into. And I know that sounds like quite a strong example.
No, I agree. They're zombie babies. Zombie babies. There was no. You shut them down before they're 2 years old. They can't speak. They're not learning language. They're not reading your body language. They're looking at this flashing. Yeah, but this flashing device, it's really strange. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Dopamine release in the brain, which is why. That's what I said. It seems like a simple answer, but this is fundamental to how they've tricked all the newer generations into handing over information about themselves, personal information, profiling information without even realizing, without even questioning, like, oh, why would you want to know that? But because it's presented in a way where by filling in the form or by clicking the buttons, they get a dopamine release because their brain has been trained by the device.
Yep. I hear what you're saying.
When they finish filling in the survey, it gives them a reward. Yeah, the
Yeah.
reward is the dopamine release.
Yeah.
So in the same way as we have for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, we have learned to develop skills of survival based on that dopamine release entrainment system in the brain.
Yes.
So we do something successful, we survive, or we hunt the prey and we have food, sustenance for the day, that gives us a dopamine reward. So the pathway, the neural pathway that led to the successful hunt is reinforced by that dopamine reward. So they've supplanted that with these internet-based smart technologies that give you a little ka-ching when you filled out all the questions they've asked you.
Is that why they get burnout so quickly? Because I'll just something as simple as lighting a fire from scratch. So you've got to collect your wood, right? You've got to make sure your wood's dry. Something as simple as making a fire. If you takes a while to get to where I'm saying, but that dopamine effect when you can sit down, put your hands around the fire, smell it and everything else, that build up might have taken you hours to get, because you always got to prepare. You can light a fire anytime. So if the instant, and that tires you out physically, mentally and spiritually, but the reward is how can I put it? It's a golden memory that sticks up in the brain. It can't be wiped away because it's stayed. Whereas this quick fix dopamine must be the similar. I'm trying to explain it as almost like a fast ride, or going on like going into. I'm trying to think where I'd say like a cinema or going to a theater where you get that thrill, but it's like constant, like boom, boom, boom from first thing. There is no genuine reward. Personally, this is what I'm trying to explain. I don't think there's any genuine reward from it because there is no real connections physically to the brain. It's purely just cerebral pokes. There is nothing to reward the body or the spirit. It is more, so that's why they want it quicker and faster, quicker and faster, quicker and faster, because they don't get enough to last them. It doesn't sustain them. There's nothing.
It's like you mentioned earlier, burnout.
Which
is why some people talk about going on a dopamine fast. Where basically they cease all use of these kind of smart technologies or internet-based technologies, and they have a break for a week or 2 weeks or 6 weeks. If you treat it the equivalent of some kind of chemical addiction, which it is in a way, it's just that rather than using a syringe, you're using a smart device to create a chemical response within your body. So leave that aside for a few weeks and go cold turkey. And your body will try to rebalance itself down to a normal use of dopamine. But the problem is potentially over time, I own the chat blazing, hello mate, over time, and many people who study addiction and counsel people for drug addiction and stuff like that have talked about this kind of point, Eventually it does get to a stage where, just like somebody who's a severe junkie of some kind of class A drug or something similar, they can't get the kick out of it anymore. They can't get the high from it anymore, so they have to try more, and they start like adrenaline junkies do with dangerous sports or dangerous activities. They do one little thing which gives them such a thrill that they're so exuberated by this sudden influx of massive dopamine and adrenaline and everything else. They're like, oh yeah, I'll do that again. The second time they do it, the thrill is not as strong because your body's already experienced it for the first time. So the next time is just like a reinforcement dose. It's not a full-on, never had this experience before dose. So they think, oh, that's not quite enough anymore. I need to make it a bit more dangerous. I need to take more of the drug to get the same high. So we now got a generation of drug addicts that are sitting there pressing the fucking smartphone. So you've got to give me more, give me more, give me more, because they're not getting the same sensation out of it anymore. Eventually, they will potentially, and I'm speculating here because I'm no expert, blah, blah, blah. But eventually we're going to have a massive number of this entire generation that are going to be so burnt out they're going to be pretty much mentally incapable.
They're fried. Their brains are fried.
They've
They're
fried
unable.
their brains
They've
out.
fried their brains. Absolutely. And if you got it from, say, the under fives. So if you got it, say you got this, your brain
You're
isn't
messing them up
developed.
completely.
You're fucking them up because your brain is not meant to develop at certain speeds. That's why children develop at different levels. So,
like you mentioned about the length of time it takes, I think that again is something that's distinctly different between us as an analog generation and the digital generations that have grown up with the internet being there all the time. Yeah. For us, we experienced life where, like you say, you had to put in a bit of effort, but the effort you put in gave a greater sense of reward when you got to the end of whatever the task was that you were trying to do.
When you were a child and you got on a bike and you fell off and I don't know how many times you fell off before you actually, and you got on it and you then managed to freewheel. And if you were really ballsy and you got confident, you could take your hands off the handlebars and put your hands up in the air and go, woo, I'm riding a bike. That would take a while to practice. And those feelings of falling off, scabby knees, banging your head, you name it, none of that is going to be replaced. It cannot be replaced in my brain as a human activity for AI. How can you virtually ride a bike? You see what I'm saying? You can't virtually ride a bike, can you? It's impossible.
There are, and I'll give it because
Cookie, you can't, Cookie, you cannot.
No, let me just explain it from this point of view. I've been playing computer games since home computing started. Since before home computing started, because when I first did my first sort of experience of using computers, it was in school, and we were using IBM 38. I was using an IBM 380Z for my work experience. Yeah, and basically the school just for something for me to do with computers, because I asked for work experience with computers at the time, and we're talking the early 80s. So computers then were still, sort of very, very nerdy and commercial business kind of stuff. It wasn't home computing as we know it today. It certainly wasn't anything like gaming consoles or whatever. But they asked me, okay, you want to learn about computers? We want you to reorganize the school's library of software on this 380Z. So I had to work with all these like 5.5-inch floppy disks using DOS to go into the disk, tell it to copy, then paste it onto a new disk and whatever, and reorganize the files and blah, blah, blah. And while doing this, because obviously as work experience, I was doing it for several days, I came across a couple of little games. One was Hangman, which is just like, guess the word, or your character got hung, the classic kind of Hangman game, but as a digital version. So the very first sort of proper computer game I ever played was Hangman on an IBM 380Z, right? So I've been doing computer gaming for, 4 decades.
Yeah,
including like I used to go to arcades and play on the arcade machines when that was the thing, yeah. Yep. So I can't say that it's certainly not true, or it's not accurate to say that you can't sort of learn something like riding a bike in terms of computer gaming. You can. There are many different styles of game, and there's certainly games that have been produced over the years that were deliberately designed to target people's ability to coordinate, like physical coordination, mental and physical coordination, even down to, when they started bringing out consoles like the Wii, which meant you had to be physically moving to control the computer game. You have to like to stand there and hold the controllers and do physical things with them. So they have sort of tried to virtualize that kind of physical task into computer use. But I would certainly agree that it's definitely not the same. No. They're not equivalent. One is very distinctly different to the other, but they are correlated. They are similes.
You can virtually fly a plane so well that you can fly a real plane. So the AI
allegedly on 9/11.
Well, theoretically, let's say the AI has come on so that you can virtually drive a car. So you learn how to drive a car on an AI very clever machine, the same as fighter pilots and pilots. There's many things that you are able to learn. So the controls and the slightest movement adjusts it. So you learn that kind of skill, but actually then implementing it, you might just be able. I might be really clever and learn how to fly a plane by AI, but it wouldn't take away your human ability and confidence and knowledge to be able to fly that plane in real life. There's a difference. I believe the same as virtually riding a bike. I'm pretty sure you could learn most of these things, but then actually taking it to the next stage of taking the actual machine out is another step again. So you're almost to the point where you could do it. Then you really have to do it. You can't really do it till you do it. Am I making sense from that?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is also I'm trying to think of a good way of describing it. There is a combination of the two effects as well, sort of a bridging point with some of the more modern technology. And this is only really, I think, apparent within the last several years, maybe a decade or more. Well, certainly a decade plus since a lot of this stuff has been commercialized. Hello in the chat, Barry Truth. Hello, mate. Thanks for joining in.
Evening, Barry.
Thanks for joining in the chat. Hayes Reviews. Cheers, mate. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, in respect to things like, I don't know whether you've even seen this kind of stuff. You know, you get the little drones, the flying drones.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's bigger versions, there's commercial versions and there's weaponized military versions.
Mm-hmm.
What I think a lot of the public don't realize is a lot of these control systems are very similar to playing a computer game, even to the point that back in like the late 90s, early noughties, a lot of people were talking about and speculating about the potential progression of the use of remote control drone systems. At the time, they were talking about things like the Predator drones, which are the really big military drones. They're like small planes, basically. And they were being controlled by pilots who would sit in a little cabin somewhere with a joystick and some screens and a keyboard. And it was just like you were playing a computer game, like Flight Simulator or something. So there is this sort of crossover point that has become even more exaggerated now, thanks to the ubiquitous and more powerful reach of the internet technology, such that you can have these little tiny explosive drones that they're using in Ukraine that are piloted by people wearing VR glasses. And what they see in the VR goggles is the camera view from the drone itself. And they're sitting there with a joystick or a joypad flying this drone at an enemy soldier. So this is pretty much literally the kind of gameplay we've had in computer games for many years now. So the two have sort of joined together. And many of us back in the 90s and the noughties, I know I was ranting at my mates about this kind of stuff back in the day, and they got fed up of listening to me ranting about Big Brother. But this is the point I was trying to make. At some point, we are going to have VR systems that eventually will be plugged in. There'll be a direct feed from the brain, So you'll literally have soldiers just sat there doing nothing but controlling some kind of remote avatar robotic system with just their thought pattern, right? So you're going to have remote controlled drones fighting other people or whatever the military need is, So that crossover point, I think, was a deliberate intention from the system and why they gave us the internet technology in the first place. They wanted to entrain a whole generation, which has happened now, to have this expectation of looking at reality through a screen and getting a dopamine reward response through what they do via that device, not through the act of physically, literally doing it in meat space, like you say, like learning to fly a plane. You would have physical memories of doing those actions, but instead it's all been virtualized through a device or through a headset. We've crossed that Rubicon now. Now that we've got people, I mean, it's even a sport, drone racing. where the people are sitting there with the goggles on and you just see them sat there doing this because they are looking at the camera through the drone. Yeah, so they're watching the racetrack as the drone flies around the racetrack.
You said years ago you used to play these games. I'm being speculative now. Do you think that possibly the people that played these games taught the AI more about how the human interacts, warfare, how to conflict, how to
Yes.
subjugate? Yeah, I'm just, I'm only a woman. I'm just suggesting that possibly we've been training these with games.
One of the first mass combat games was called Arma, ARMA, and it was actually commissioned by the American military for exactly that reason. Yeah, to entrain young people. Their argument was it was trying to encourage people to join the military.
Yeah.
But it was also so they could learn from how people interacted with the game. So
and each other.
You think you're good at dodging and weaving when you play your computer game. Your dodging and weaving is teaching the AI exactly how to defeat you.
Yeah.
Because you're showing it what you will do if an enemy drone was coming towards you. That enemy drone now knows what your tactics are going to be.
Now I'm being cynical.
but it is true that
I know.
Think that was part of their intention. This is also part of the reason why they force most gaming now to be connected online. So you don't just buy the game off a shelf, go home and play it on your own computer and nobody sees what you're doing when you play and you get. No, now everything you do in the game is tracked and monitored and recorded. So every keystroke, every movement you make in the game, everything you type in the chat box is all being databased and reviewed. Yeah. And they're using it to train AI systems. So,
how to beat us, we're teaching not just in warfare, but in every aspect that I can think psychologically, how it's teaching AI to beat us, as you said, manipulate our emotions, our feelings, to be able to tap into our own energies, know how you feel in the morning. If you wake up feeling grumpy or feeling, they know how to tap into that, don't they? And how to
manipulate, like I mentioned earlier, what are the keys that are manipulative for you personally?
Yeah.
What words do they need to use to make you calm down or to get you to agree to what they want, etc.? This is something that they're building into their systems. That's why I say at some point, I think a lot of the public just don't realise how entrapping this system is going to be. There will be no arguing your way out of it. There will be no reasoning with it, full stop. You will not be able to rationalise with this system in any way whatsoever. It will twist everything you tried to say or every argument you tried to make. It will be like the ultimate psychological abuser. They know every manner to be able to manipulate you and twist you to what they want. This is why it's so important to say no now. Not after it's been implemented, not try and get it repealed or whatever. You have to keep saying no now. Yeah, I know that's not easy necessarily. Depends on your life situation. That's why I keep repeating. You've got to do this from the point of view that works for you. Because the main point is to be able to live, thrive, and survive and have a good life out of this, not constantly trying to just survive, full stop, trying to exist. That's not life, is it? Point on that is back to the point of making sure you get some joy out of life. So don't get stuck fixating on just this kind of potential negative possibility of what's going on. There's still opportunity to change the direction that we're being pushed. But it does take the kind of determination that someone, a character like Anne Widdecombe had. You may disagree with her, but she's going to stand her ground and argue her point. And I think all of us need to take a lesson from that. As you repeated a few times, you may not have agreed with what she was saying, but it was the fact that she had the ability to make a good argument. And come up with some kind of debate to back up her argument. it wasn't just an authoritarian demand like the tyranny does. Yeah.
When it comes to Anne taking your joy seriously, she took her life seriously. She took her politics, her serious stuff, very serious. Very, she was very.
She was a smoker, wasn't she? I seem to remember.
I don't know.
I seem to remember she liked to have a fag and a whiskey or something like that.
Yeah, she liked to have a drink,
drinker.
but she also unplugged her personal persona, which she was good at being able to explain. And then when she flipped the coin, and then she was Anne in her village, or Anne going for walks, or Anne going for a swim, or Anne doing her own stuff. That was that other side that was taking her joy. So she had a work-life balance of being able to work. There's my serious shit. I'm taking that very seriously. I'll give it due diligence to the best of my ability. Now I'm off from that. I'm unplugging it, and I'm just recharging my joy, which is what we all need to do. Whichever way you take it, we do need to know what's going on. We need to engage, even though we don't want to or necessarily agree with it. But if we don't know what's going on, we're going to be completely left behind, and then we're going to be like bog monsters, literally bog monsters. And we're not going to be able to help or educate or guide, possibly influence the next generation, unless you have your finger on the pulse. But it's very important to take your finger off the pulse. I can't put it any other way, but live your life to beating your own drum or your own rhythm in your own way. You don't need approval, affirmation for anybody to do it your way. You know, you can engage with society and then switch off. Whatever you want to do it without, with what you call it, with the most gay abandon. Just love life to your own way. You know what I mean?
You can't say gay.
I'm saying gay abandon. Abandon your gay.
It could elicit an emotional response. You can't say gay. I don't know, Mascara. Thank you for the information. If that's right, I don't know. I thought she was a drinker. I thought she liked to smoke and a drink, but maybe it was just curry and cats. I don't know. And hello, Rob. Hope you're getting nice sunshine over there, mate. If you're still out there.
Oh, Rob's in, is he? I didn't see that, so we missed that. Hello,
just
Rob.
Popped in the chat. Hello.
Hope you're lovely and proud and having a great time.
Yeah, I was just about to wrap it up. Grab me bag of runes. I'm going to ask the runes, is there anything untoward about the murder of Anne Widdecombe? And the runes know what I mean when I say untoward. So, I'm not just talking about the fact that it's a murder. I think there's potentially more unpleasant shadow elements involved in this situation. All to do with the political bullshit, of course, all to do with the tyrannical control system. But the point is there something untoward about the murder of Anne Widdecombe? Was she sacrificed in some kind of manner?
Just don't pull the daggers again, please.
I hope not. I do believe that's inverted.
Mm.
Oh, not like my belly button. Oh, luckily I don't have an inverted belly button. I have a normal innie. I'm not one of them weird people with an outie.
Innies and outies.
Oh, opposite of strength. Because that rune is the strength rune, which is called Uruz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, I can't speak.
Just while you're looking at that, I'm just going to answer Robert's question. Pete's gone to a gay bar. He'll be back later.
Yeah, he had problems getting it in, so he needed to go and rub himself with some lube, I think.
I think he's having internet problems, bless him.
Without ears to hear and eyes to see, you may fail to take advantage of the moment. The negative result could well be an opportunity missed or the weakening of your position. It may seem that your own strength is being used against you. Considering my question, I would take that to mean that maybe it's not as insidious or shadow work as I might speculate, because I am such a cynical fucker when it comes to that kind of political shit. But maybe there is something to it, just not quite to the extent that I was thinking. But yeah, I would interpret that as a no to my question. I asked, is there anything untoward about the murder? And I think that response, the inverted Uruz, would imply a no. But we shall see. Things might get exploited just for the sake of, they like a good story to occupy the mind of the masses, but especially when it's something like a murder or something salacious, some sexy gossip kind of shit. Because that wouldn't surprise me. Stuff like that comes out about her now, because it could be related to some of the other goings on around the political parties. Because don't forget, a lot of them had close connections to Mandelson, and of course the international network that was I don't want to say being run by, but certainly it was being operated by Epstein and the people around him. Maybe she knew stuff about that and never spoke up about it, possibly. Wouldn't surprise me, yeah. But yeah, it's been an interesting weekend with her death. I should say her murder, really, because it does seem like however and whoever it was that killed her, she was certainly murdered. She didn't die a natural death. And then we've got the shit with the Tyler Robinson hearing in the US, which is more craziness. Lindsey Graham dying as well in somewhat conveniently suspicious circumstances, just after he'd been making more arguments and pushing for more funding for Israel while they're still committing a genocide, etc. Yeah, the situation around that has been lost in the chaos again as well, hasn't it? Which perfectly suits the current tyrannical control system, because they seem to determine to let it happen anyway. Yeah, go on.
Don't forget, they're also making some little breadcrumbs for people to follow on the news, whether it's the World Cup, so it's a football thing. Oh, look, we're looking. It's what's on the front page, or what's on the your feed. It's Anne Widdecombe, or it's World Cup, or anything apart from what they really want you to know about, or what we're interested in, or what they want to know. So it's I was surprised when you said we've got to take the BBC as their news narrative. That made me smile. The official top news. You got to be spoon-fed your reality, bite-sized pieces.
Yeah,
I'll take that another little piece of it.
I think I mentioned this last week. I know there's a lot of people out there that are calling for you to go and fill in that consultation for that. I can't even remember the name of the proposal for them to promote certain channels and whatever. And they put out that consultation period for the public to go and fill in their survey, basically. I know there's a lot of the talking heads out there that are saying to people, go and fill it in. Like even Sonia Poulton was saying, I've filled it in and you should go and fill it in as well. And it's like, I'm sorry, love, I completely disagree with you on that. She said lots of great stuff about the situation that I agree with her on. But when it comes to filling in that consultation form on the government's website, it's like, no, don't do it. Because all they're doing is tricking you into telling them how bad you want it to be. They don't give a shit if you say no. They're not asking you if you agree to this happening or not. They're asking you how much, how far do you want it? How many inches do you want this rammed up your butthole? Yeah, that's what they're asking you to participate in. So whatever answers you give on that consultation, you're just helping them push this through. Yeah, because they'll use the body of answers from the public as their justification that this has to be done. Even though you fill it in, they'll say, 10,000 people agreed with us and said it was a great idea if we do it to full extent. Your answers won't get counted or they'll be ignored. They'll be massaged out of the data.
Cookie, don't forget, 99.9% of cats prefer whiskers. Remember, the cats answer the questions. Remember that. Don't forget that. 99.9 cats prefer whiskers. So fill the form in. I'm pretty sure we'll all agree with whatever the form says. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I still got it, but many years ago, back in the 90s, I made a comedy version of that on videotape and sent it to the, what was the name of that show where they used to show home movies? Where it was like people falling over and doing stupid things and cats like falling off tables and whatever, yeah? This was before the internet became highly popular and we had memes on the internet.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm with you. The bloke I know, I can remember it. Channel 4, I think it was.
It might even have been what's his face with the small hand, Beadle.
Oh.
I think he might have hosted one of the first ones originally when they started doing it. But yeah, they used to show home movies, and at the end of the show, it would always say, "If you've got something funny, send it in to us. You could win £250."
Yeah.
So me and the missus at the time, we made a comedy version of the Cats one, where I made a fake label to put on the tin. It was 8 out of 10 cats ended up in whiskers. Yeah, we didn't win anything. Yeah.
No, but you get you 9 out of 10 for effort, Cookie.
Yeah, I at least give it a go. You know, we didn't get any money, but yeah, probably a good job, really. It helped me develop my defense of cynicism. It can be a very useful defensive tool. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with cynicism, not at all.
It can be a very useful tool. You just have to make sure you don't let it become pathological.
No,
because then it can fuck up your life if you become pathologically cynical. You know, you never find any joy in anything. But anyway, talking about finding joy in something, I thought just for the crack, I'm going to try and do this on the regular now if I can. I'll keep digging around in some of the old music stuff. But I'm going to play a toxic masculinity track. It'll be a little bit loud, possibly. I'm not sure how loud the volume will come through. So if you don't like loud music, you know, just mute it or turn it off, whatever you want to do, because we're winding up the show now anyway. So if you want to just leave early because you think it's terrible, that's up to you. Roberta, hello, mate. Sorry I didn't see you in the chat earlier.
Hi, Roberto.
Hello, hope you're well. Hello to everyone else as well. If I missed anyone else, apologies.
Before you leave, Cookie, we need to tell people that are listening that Robert won't be here tomorrow. No, he's away. He's away. He's on his holidays, having a lovely time.
Torremolinos.
Torremolinos, is that where he is?
Yeah, well, that's what he said in the chat. Yeah.
Torremolinos is lovely and very reasonable for eating out and great beaches. Yeah. I'm glad you're having a lovely time. I look forward to seeing you next week. Chill out and have some fun. Look forward to the pictures and your
don't forget to
holidays.
Rub yourself on.
Especially your head.
You're watching the football. Oh, well, fuck you then. You're watching the fucking mental programming from the government. Yeah. Enjoy the sunshine.
We've got Pete back on Wednesday, Steve on Thursday, Valerie on Friday.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. He's obviously having problems with his connection or his computer or something at the moment. So, yeah, we'll see on Wednesday. If he can't make it, I'll still set up a show and I'll try and invite people as I can via email. Or I can pass it to you and then you can pass it on to them via the app and whatever.
All right, Matt.
So we will be back on Wednesday, even if Pete's like having problems or whatever. And yeah, Thursday will be Steve for the mystery show. There's no ladies' night this week, is there?
No, Kitty's away, and no.
Okay, so yeah, you have to find something to do with yourselves for tomorrow. Without Dr. Rob's amazing quiz, you can just go online and find some quiz questions and sit there and answer them and give yourself a little clap when you get one right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Stay connected. Thanks for being here, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Stay blessed. Thanks, Cookie.
Thank you for joining in. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, this is some toxic masculinity from about what's this got to be? Nearly 30 years ago, I think, something like that, maybe. So yeah, a bit back in the day, but hopefully it will get your foot stomping. There's nothing wrong with a bit of masculinity. See you all again soon. Catches.
Everyone's doing their part. Are you? The war effort needs your effort. At work, at home, in your community.
Welcome to your awakening. Please take all as your reality is adjusted.